Okay, so the biggest thing that we were going to focus on was dodging and burning. I wanted to show you guys with that because there's a special tool that most photographers either don't know about or don't know well enough, so they just ignore it and don't use it. And then a little bit on different tricks that you can do with some of the adjustment layers that may be familiar with you. It's sort of like a Lightroom thing for one of them. So just quickly here, I'm going to start with the dodge and burning because there's 3 different ways that you can dodge and burn. I'm going to start with the classic way and then show you another way which is slightly easier but takes more time to learn if you're familiar with this one.
Okay.
So I'm just going to start off with a new layer.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I'm here.
And I just like to call it DB, dodge and burn. I go up to edit, fill.
Okay, I'm not getting any.
No, me neither. Oh, now I am.
Yeah, there's a bit of a delay there.
All right, I'll just go extra slow.
So DB.
DB, yeah.
DB for dodge and burn. I go up to edit, fill, 50% gray.
Okay.
And then I click OK. And then what I do is I go to my blending mode and I switch it to soft light. And what should happen when you do that is absolutely nothing. So if you turn that layer on and off, you won't see a difference. And then with this way, what you do is you use your traditional dodge and burn tools. So I'm going to go to my dodge tool. And the main thing with dodge and burn is, yes, you can do something similar with levels. So if I wanted to add contrast, I could pull levels up, bring up my highlights, darken my shadows. But that's overall. If I'm pretty happy with my exposure and I don't want to over manipulate it in any way, that's what dodge and burn is for. Okay, so if you're working with a face in this case, right, the highlighted or brighter areas come forward so you see them more, and then the dark ones fall back. That's how you can make a nose look so small, is if you darken the sides and then brighten the line in the middle. So with this image, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the clouds. And I'm just at 20% on midtones. That's usually my happy place. And there are a lot of people who will go in here and they will very carefully paint over every single little highlight. It all depends on how much time you really feel like you need to spend on it. If it were a waterfall or something like that, I would definitely go in and I would take my time with it. The Grand Canyon, I've done this, and I've been very, very particular. With clouds, I tend not to be as picky because they have pretty distinct highlights and shadows already.
Yeah.
A little over
What
there.
are you trying to do to them? You're trying to make less of them or more of them?
I'm trying to basically add more to my highlights. I know you can't really see the difference right now. I'm going to zoom out in a second and show you exactly what's happened.
Oh, you're kind of painting them there, yeah.
I'm painting the highlights. Yeah. So now when I turn...
on the GB, you're at the DB layer, right?
Yes. Using my dodge tool with an exposure of 20%. Okay. So I'm going to turn that off and on, off and on. So now those brighter areas, they pop out a lot more. So it looks as if there's more detail in the sky and more depth to it. And if I wanted to, I could go in with my burn tool and I could darken some of the areas here. I find darkening is usually a little bit stronger than exposure, so I'm only at 10% for my exposure here. And I'm just gonna try to get some more depth into those shadows, increasing the contrast between the lighter areas and the darker areas of the clouds.
So you're just generally working on the midtones then, KJ?
Yes. That's what I typically like to do. Plus also the thing is I'm not directly on the image, right? So the only tone that is in a 50% gray soft light layer is a mid-tone.
Right, okay.
Right? If I'm doing this directly on the image and say I wanted to brighten the shadows here. Sorry, I'm on the darken here. Yeah. It is changing, but it's not changing too much. If you switch your range to shadows, it does it at a quicker rate.
Okay.
So it's just being a little bit...
You're all using the gray then, the mid-tone layer, or the 50% gray layer.
Yeah.
You only need to ever look at midtones.
Yes. Because that's...
And it would be less destructive too, right?
Yes, because it's on a completely separate layer.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then also you don't have to worry about having a duplicate layer of your background that is specifically for dodging and burning. Because then that just makes your file twice as large again. And yeah. So I went...
Do you ever do this, Leslie, in Lightroom?
No, I'm not. I don't know Lightroom.
Oh, because it's also easy in Lightroom with the brush tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't... I mean, I knew the old Adobe Camera Raw. That's what I've kind of used to develop my raw images. And now it's all looking like Lightroom, so I'm a little bit lost.
Yeah. Well, except it doesn't do the brush stuff in Lightroom, in the raw.
You can, actually.
Yeah.
You can.
I haven't tried it yet, I should say that.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty... I think everything... Well, I don't know anything that you can't do in...
Is that on the new update?
Nope, that's been there for a while, the brush.
That's been there for a while, but now it looks like Lightroom too, apparently.
Okay, look at that. Yeah.
Very different to me anyways.
It's extremely different from its original look, but yeah. It's definitely changed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, that's one way of doing it. I'm just going to quickly show you another way. And that is to have an empty layer set to overlay or soft light. I've seen it done both ways. I found that I liked soft light more because it was more gentle, whereas with overlay it was a little bit more overpowering. And then what people do is they will use a regular brush.
Soft light, or what was that again? Sorry?
Or overlay. The one,
overlay.
Yeah, the one just above it.
Okay.
Yeah. And you need to use a very low opacity for this. So I have my opacity set to 5. Because I'll show you what it looks like at 50. If I start painting, it's a very quick and very dramatic effect.
Yeah.
So I tend to stick around 5% or 10% opacity if I'm doing it in this way. And then it works exactly the same. And if you go over something, let's say this section here, and that's not what I wanted to do, I can easily use the eraser tool, and this is the only case where I will ever use the eraser tool. So I just went ahead and tapped E, and I can simply erase it. You can't do that when you have a dodge and burn layer with the 50% gray. You would have to get a brush that's at 50% gray, or put a layer mask on it.
So you've got blank layer.
Yep.
You didn't shift this one to 50% gray though.
Nope, it's completely empty.
Okay, it's empty, and you're painting
with a white brush. Just a
white
regular brush at 5 or 10%.
Okay, that's to dodge then.
To dodge in this case, yes. And then if I wanted to burn, I would switch it to a black brush. I'm very, very used to doing the 50% gray layer. A lot of people are, but it's sort of become more regular now. I've noticed, especially on YouTube channels, where people are trying to step away from that and use other techniques for dodging and burning. And this one just happens to be the most similar. So, yeah. And I would use that. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you know when you've done too little or too much, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So
it's just like that's what I think. I tend to overdo things.
Okay, no problem.
Carried away. So
if you do get carried away, like say you're dodging quite a bit and you think that's sort of where you like it, and then you step away and you realize, oh, those are really, really dark.
Yeah.
If you're happy with other sections but just not that one, even with the 50% gray layer, you can always put a layer mask on it.
Okay.
And then using a black brush, I would just go at 10% and brush over that area maybe once or twice, double checking, clicking it on and off. On, off. Until
What's the key
you're happy with it. Yes?
What's the key again for before and after?
I don't have one.
Oh, okay. Like the picture at the beginning. Oh, you just have to go back into the history. Yeah.
I'm just turning the layer that I dodged and burned on and off.
Right.
With the little eye here. Yeah. Layer visibility.
You can't do that, right.
Yeah.
I had another question regarding that. When you go back into the history, and let's say you just want to delete one part of the whole history that you've done.
Yeah.
Can you do that in Photoshop?
Like going.
How do you do that?
Like going back and just deleting this one?
Yeah.
But not these?
Yeah.
Can't do
just
it.
Right click it? Can't do it.
Can't do it.
No.
It's sort of like it's like you're trying to cut out a piece of film without giving Photoshop context. You know, it's like you go onto your computer and you move a file from Lightroom, and all of a sudden Lightroom's like, I don't know where that file is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice if you could do. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. There is a history brush up here, so if you wanted to basically reset your source, you could. There's also a history brush, but that only goes back so far, and that's more if you're doing destructive work to your images.
Right.
So I don't
This is why
normally.
you do.
Yeah, I don't normally.
I don't think I've ever used that at all. The history brush.
No, I don't like it. Yeah, unless I'm working on one layer and I have no other option, that's the only case. All right.
Was this a trip with Rodney?
The dodging and burning or the history brush?
No, this picture.
Oh, yes, it was a trip. Sorry, I thought you said trick.
Trip with Rodney. Yeah.
Yes, it was my first. I'm pretty sure it was my first trip with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was the end of the day after the big giant drive down with almost no sleep in the van, and good times. Okay.
Yeah. I want to go on another one with him. It was so much fun.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to show you the one tool that a lot of photographers don't really know about, but I kind of consider it my hidden little gem. So I have a lot of hidden colors in here. in my sky, right? You can kind of see some of the little bit of pinks and purples that are hiding in there. And I'm just going to say that this image has already been edited and tweaked, and I don't want to increase the saturation at all on the rocks. But I just want to give the sky a little bit of a boost. Underneath the dodge and burn tool is the sponge tool. It has two different options. It has saturate and desaturate. I'm just going to put it onto saturate, and I'm going to put it at 70, which is extreme, but just to show you exactly what it does. It is essentially a saturation brush. So say you have a little bit of yellow that you just want a touch of pop added to in a giant landscape, and you don't really want to affect the greens, just that one section. You just select the sponge brush and start painting in those little areas, and they just
cool,
absolutely pop. Yeah, I learned this when I went to Photoshop World, and he's like, "Are you ready to see a really cool thing you've never heard about?" And I was like, "Yes." So I used
They're doing an online one this year, eh?
They are. I'm really debating on it, because I mean, when you go to Photoshop World, you don't get any recordings.
Yeah.
So
that's what I thought. It'd even be worth to have the recordings.
Yeah. And you get them for a whole year, so. Yeah. Anyways, so I did this really extreme. I would do it at a lower rate. And I did this on a new layer, because you can't do it on a layer with no information. So unfortunately, there's no current way to use this tool non-destructively. But if you're just adding a little splash here or a little splash there right before printing or right before you export, this is what I would use. But yeah, just gives those clouds that little bit of extra pop that I absolutely love, and brings those mountains back up to the front, and yeah, I really like it.
It's going to be a really stupid question, but I'm going to ask it.
Okay.
I still get confused sometimes when I want to make a copy of the background and use that, or a layer of the background. Because sometimes I've made a copy of the background, and I guess it's just a copy, and then you're doing the layers on top of that. That would just give you a fresh background, right? Like, is there any kind of rule to when to use one or the other?
A copy or a layer?
Yeah, like when you copy the whole background, you actually make a copy of it.
Like I did,
the original. Like
I did right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a layer that you did, right? Instead of making, like, am I making any sense? Because on the bottom in Photoshop, you can either make a layer or you can copy the. Or is there no such thing? Am I thinking of something else?
I think you might be thinking of something else.
It's more, it has to do with whether or not you want, what you're doing is going to be destructive, right? Because if you don't make a duplicate, you have nothing to go back to.
Yes.
I guess I'm talking about a duplicate, not a copy. Yeah. So you make a duplicate. Is it always a good idea to make a duplicate of the original when you're doing any layers?
Leslie's right. It depends what you're doing. If you're doing all adjustment layers, or just, if you're doing all adjustment layers or simple things, then it's no problem at all to just leave it as a background. If you're doing any manipulating, I always recommend duplicating the background, so then that way you have the option.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if you're doing just some cloning and blemishes, things like that, you could always just do it on a blank layer, right? We kind of talked about that at one point, how you could edit on a blank layer, and then that sort of becomes current and below. That sort of becomes your your edit layer, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it wasn't destructive. I didn't do it on the background layer, and then start doing other stuff, and now I can't go back, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So if you need that option, or at any point, right, because you don't want to accidentally save over top of it, have that be your only copy after all that work you did.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
And I'm probably asking it because I've made the mistake time and time again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
PJ, can you... Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's what, go right ahead.
Oh, can you just refresh my mind about clipping?
Yes.
When you're clipping an adjustment to...
Yeah. Absolutely.
1 or more years or however,
Yeah.
and when you would do that, and what's the advantage of doing that?
Yes. So usually what you would do in that case is if you were doing a composite or something with several different elements. So let's just say I decide I want another archway right here, but it's too dark right now, right, compared to the sky in the background, so I want to brighten it up a little bit. If I add a levels adjustment and I go down to clip it, so that way it doesn't affect the background, it just affects the layer below it, which is my duplicate arch.
Okay.
So that's it on that little thing, that little box there? That's the clip?
Yep.
I was trying to figure out what key it was. Is it also a key?
You can also hold Alt, and if you're in between two layers, so if you look in my layer grouping here, you can see the clipping symbol. That's if you hold Alt.
When you're in between, okay.
Yes. Yeah, if I hold Alt...
and that's why it didn't work. Okay,
yeah.
Good.
I mean, usually if you're making an adjustment, you'll have this window open, so it's nice and quick to click it.
If you wanted it to apply to like 2 layers below, do you then have to do like a group first, or can you have it work?
Yes. That's what I usually do. So say I made another one and I moved it over, because I did this with my rocks when I did the woman overlooking the water.
Oh yeah, right.
So you can put them into a group, and then you can clip the adjustment to that group.
Okay.
So now when I go to brighten, it affects both of them.
Right.
Can you walk through that one more time, what you just did?
Yeah.
I'm going to watch the steps.
I just got to undo it a bunch here. Okay. So I just duplicated my background, or my arch layer, just as an example if I had 2 things that I wanted affected the exact same way.
Yeah.
I selected both layers. I go down to the folder here, which creates a group out of those layers. You can call it extra arches. I want to make a levels adjustment just to brighten things a little bit. I hit the clipping.
What did you click on? What did you click on for the levels adjustment? The bottom?
You can go to the bottom. I have my adjustments open on the top here, so I can click them at the top.
Okay, let me see if I can do that on mine.
Yeah, if you don't see it, you can just go up to window. It's how I have my workspace arranged.
Yeah, I just added it. Oh, that's adjustment. Yes.
Yeah. So, adjustments. I like to have it underneath my histogram. It's really quick to click them this way.
Yeah, that's what mine is too.
Yeah.
I might get you to look at mine when I open mine up, because I just opened it up and it didn't open up on the top.
Yeah, no, it'll probably open up on the side here with everything else.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it usually does. Yeah. Yeah. You can always, if you wanted something to be moved over here, like you can always click and drag. And then now I have my clone source where my adjustments usually are.
Okay.
See?
I think I'll get you to look at that when mine is open after.
Okay.
Because I need to organize it better.
Yeah, I'm using the standard photography design, basically, or workspace. So if you go into Window, Workspace... Oh, I actually have it set to Essentials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually am, but I switched on my iPad. I'm good on my laptop. I mean, I'm good now. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah. And so just clicked the clip and then went ahead and adjusted as needed.
Good. Yeah, because I was having trouble with that. So when we're in my 20-minute session, I want to just go through that too.
Okay. I think we're at about that point where we should probably switch to doing that.
Okay.
Okay. So, any questions before we move on?
I think I asked mine.
I think I got mine too.
Okay. Sounds good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop sharing. There we go. And Kayla, do you want to go first?
Sure. Share. Open system preferences. And I have to check that. I'd like to be able to record. I think I'm good now. Okay. Can you see my screen yet?
Nope.
Nope.
What else do I have to do? Share. Share. I just push share, right?
That's
and then,
what I thought.
Yeah, share, but does it give you options?
No. What was that? I'd like to control.
There you are. Now I can see you, I think.
Do you see a picture of a girl with a daisy?
No, I just, there
Yes.
you go, yep.
Okay, good. All right. So, here, I'll show you the one I did. And this is just today. I actually felt a little bit more addicted to this for the first time ever today.
Awesome.
So that's one picture.
That's good.
This one, I was just joking around. I would never do anything with this.
Yeah, it looks good.
This is another one, the same idea.
Yeah.
And then this one, this one I have a very specific thing I want to ask you about.
Okay.
And same with this one. And then I was just joking around doing that. That was my most recent one. So these I don't want to do anything with. I just wanted to show you them.
Yeah.
But I think they're pretty good. And I went and used the brush and cleaned up her hair. I was really happy with those.
So you moved her onto that background. That looks really good, Kayla.
I moved her and I moved him to where the bird. I moved him behind the fence there.
Very nice.
He wasn't there. It was just a bird picture. So here, this is just a little thing. You see this white line in here?
Yep.
Can you see? I don't know if you can see my mouse. I just was having trouble. Let me move the meeting people. Move you guys away over here, Leslie. So it had that as well. I don't know what it is. It was in the photo I took yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Just a tiny little cleaning thing, and I just wanted to see what you would do. I did manage to get that one gone. But the other one here, I just wanted to see what you would do. It's just a small little thing.
Yeah, I would probably...
I tried cloning it, it was a mess.
Yeah, I would definitely use the healing brush instead of the clone tool, just because it would blend it a little bit better.
Okay, so...
For his arm, that one's going to be a little bit trickier. The healing brush, not the spot healing tool.
Brush
that one,
here.
yeah.
Oh, I have to on the background. Make it a little bigger. And what would you put it at? Which levels?
I would just make it very soft.
Normal?
Yeah, leave the mode
soft?
at normal. Just reduce your hardness all the way down to 0.
All the
yeah.
way down. Oh, 0, okay.
Yeah.
And that's it?
Yeah.
And then you just kind of paint over it?
Yep. You have to hold Alt and select. It's kind of like the clone stamp tool. So you have to hold Alt.
So you're not taking from another area?
You are taking from another area. You have to hold Alt to sample, and then you can paint over top of it. Yeah.
Okay. Like that. Okay, that's simple enough. So I was trying to use clone. I should use the healing brush more than I am. That's pretty good.
It tends to blend.
I can practice that with it.
Yeah, it tends to blend a lot nicer.
And I'm doing it on my laptop, so excuse me if I'm a little bit.
No worries.
So, with the healing brush versus the spot healing brush.
Yes.
You have more control with the healing brush? Is that why you would use it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so, and the spot healing, it just does its own thing.
Yeah, with the spot healing brush, what it does is it uses like the content aware algorithm to fill in the area for you that you painted.
Okay, I will play with that. That's much better. This one, I just want to show you how proud I was of this one. I haven't finished it, but this was another one where you can see I had to use an arm from a different picture.
Okay, yeah, nice.
I didn't like this picture. I like this one. So
yeah.
I actually took the arm from this one and switched it. I was pretty proud of that. And then I went in with the clone to clean it up a little bit in here.
Yeah, it looks good.
In here. Look at it before. I didn't like the picture. Oh, that's what it was. My mom's hand was there.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
I was proud of that one.
It looks very good.
All right. So,
yeah.
So this is good, right?
Yeah. It's coming up a little pixelated for me, so I can't really, because I'm a details person, but overall it looks pretty good. Is there a mountain over top of his head, or is that a halo?
Oh, it might be. It's a mountain.
Okay.
I will move it up a bit. Yeah, good point. I went in, and I was proud of myself here. I went into the effects and did a little bit of shadow work, which kind of made it, I'd never done that before either.
Okay, yeah, cool.
And that was kind of cool. I watched that somewhere. I don't know where.
Yeah.
And originally I had him, but then I realized, where is he? I realized I had him there in bare feet. So I kind of shrunk him down there. Anyway, there was nothing on that. That one was okay.
Yeah.
Same with this one.
Can I ask a question on that one?
Which one? This one? This one.
Either one of those. So, what would you do, KJ, to blend the tones better? That's what, to me, those look more like that. A couple of them look like you can't even tell. These ones you kind of can. What would you do to blend the tones between the people and the background?
So I would use... I would use the curves layer. There's a very, very special hidden trick that I absolutely love to use. Top secret. I could share it with you guys, absolutely. But yeah, for this one, overall, I would just try to use the curves tool, because they're very close. I think you just need to darken your darks a little bit, and maybe slightly the midtones.
So I also put the opacity down a little bit on this.
Oh, don't do that.
Something.
Don't do that.
Look at that. Okay, don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go in and try to do what we're talking about.
Yeah. So just add a curves layer. And in this case,
I go down here.
Yeah, in this case you're gonna have to clip it.